Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Let's continue our reading of this hilarious book that I found in the used bookstore. It was just $2 and it has all these witty sayings of Yorkshire, which is in England. And I find it to be quite hilarious and definitely a great find. And it was actually new in the used book section, right? And that's a find. And it's so small, like so tiny, that I go like this, like when I'm looking for an interesting book. And I saw it, I was like, bam! Take that right off the shelf. Let's begin. Rome wasn't built in a day. But then again, I wasn't on that particular job. That's a clever one because we say that a lot in America as well. It's like Rome wasn't built in a day. So have patience and get back to work. When people complain about how long things are taking, I in particular am that way when I see construction sites where you're like, they have not just done it already. And sometimes the site will be left like abandoned for a while and you're like, where is everybody? And that's when you'll get a response like this. People don't spend enough time seriously considering and defining what they really want and why. Life is about experiences. Whatever you're striving for, ask yourself, what experience am I looking for? It helps to clarify things and removes a lot of bullshit and time wasting from your life. Now, I also liked this one as too. I read these last two in the previous video, but it's just a refresher. But when you think about what kind of experience do you want, that is important when it comes to jobs. I didn't realize that. I'm now more in that mindset of, do I really want to do this or do I really want to do that? How I'm going to feel? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying if it's difficult, then don't do it. But rather, weigh the pros and cons, essentially. It is easy to confuse having a goal with having a purpose. Try and have both, but know the difference. This is very clever. Goal versus having a purpose. A goal can have a sort of date. Right? My goal is to get this job. Once you get it, next goal. And then purpose, it seems like there's a continuation there. It doesn't have a defined ending point. Now your goal could be, I'm going to gain as much knowledge as possible, which is one of mine. That doesn't have a necessary end point. But my purpose is to study and to learn and to grow. So those ones are very similar. But depending on how they're used, there's definitely a difference. Use every weapon within the rules and stretch the rules to breaking point, I say. This one's unique because it's almost like it's telling you to test the boundaries but stay within it. I think that could work for sports. But when it comes to like the law, obviously you don't want to do that. If you're not doing enough to get what you want, ask yourself if it's really what you want. That's funny. There's nothing wrong in trying something if the only reason you tried it was to confirm that it wasn't for you. Yeah, in the context, right? You can't be like, I want to test run this individual before I marry them. Like, no. Can't say that. There are some things that you shouldn't confirm. Like, maybe crystal meth is my kind of drug. I tried it and it wasn't for me, but now I'm heavily addicted and my teeth are falling out. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, there's definitely some things that, you gotta watch out for. You are who you choose to be. That one is it's condensed, right? But it is true. If you choose to be a certain way, that is who you are. You have to connect actions when it comes to measuring someone's conduct. If you want something to look easy, work hard at it. That's a good point. Practice makes perfect. That is very true. When you see these like really good basketball players and you're just mesmerized by their dunking and abilities. They practice constantly. People who are good at something, they have a talent for it, but they must practice. Stubbornness is one of those unusual qualities that can be either positive or negative, depending on its utilized and directed. Oh, I see. So stubbornness is one of those unusual qualities that can be either positive or negative, depending how it's utilized and directed. That's true. Like if you are stubborn to hear someone out or to stop drinking, that's obviously bad. Because you're directing yourself towards a disaster. But if you're stubborn in terms of you're in peer pressure and they're trying to get you to drink when you don't drink and you hold fast, that's being steadfastly stubborn, and that can really help. Do not be afraid that your life will end someday. Take care that it starts. This is a kind of new age thing right there. Your day starts today. Today is the first day of everything. Like, you get those quotes, right? It's kind of Instagram, yoga pants wearing, smoothie drinking quotes. But your life started when you were born. And a new chapter can start, most definitely. I would rephrase it with a chapter. If you give up anything, give up excuses. We're all addicted on some level. Okay, this one sounds like... It says here this is from Tom, pharmaceutical sales rep from South Yorkshire. So, someone selling pharmaceuticals, talking about addiction, opioid addiction, especially in America, in the Bible Belt, that's very telling that someone would say that. Like, my back hurts, I need oxytocin. No, not. Oxycontin and oxytocin, yeah. Or, I'm so depressed, I just need a Vicodin. Oh, I can't study, so I need an Adderall. Excuses, excuses. If you're addicted, deal with your addiction. However, I get into conversations like that with my husband when he'll tell me to do something. I'm like, okay, but I have this to do, and I can't do that yet. And if I do this, and I have to do that. Like, I think a very logistical way, like, heavily analyzed, and he'll like, just no excuses, just do it. And I'm like, well, I can't. I will, but I have to do a couple things this, you know? And he'll see it as excuses, but I see it as explanation. So it's fascinating. Very fascinating. The man who wants to lead the orchestra must turn his back on the crowd. That one I thought was really cool. And it's from Captain James Cook, who was an explorer from North Yorkshire. Very interesting. If you want to lead, like, okay, we need the cellos, we need the flutes, we need the saxophones, we everybody. The amount of detail you have to be into lead them, so because they're watching you in the crowd, you have to turn your back on the crowd. If you're staring at the crowd, you can't lead the orchestra. That is a very witty saying. People make a big deal about categorizing folk as either leaders or followers. It seems obvious to me that the best people are capable of both. Simone, mechanic from Thorn. Very true. You have to be a bit of both sometimes. I think all of us can look at an example where we had to be the leader, and then sometimes we just had to be the follower. And stress comes with both. You don't want to follow a moron and get in trouble, but you don't want to be the leader and lead everyone to disaster. No matter which you choose, there's going to be consequences and benefits to both. Gather the flowers, but spare the buds. Andrew Marvell, 17th century metaphysical poet and politician from East Yorkshire. I'm thinking of buying that guy's book. Or some. I gotta do more research on him and see who he is, because he has some cool quotes in here. The flowers are already done, right? They're already blooming. The only way is down for them. So if you're gonna gather them up, do it. But the buds have not had a chance to bloom yet. Leave them be. To me, I think of war when I hear this. Get the mature men, but don't get the young, inexperienced men who haven't even married or had experiences in life. The early bird may get the worm, but it's the second mouse that gets the cheese. Jeremy Faxman, broadcaster and journalist from Leeds. That is freaking hilarious. I wish I could go back in time in the 1990s to my gym teachers. And everyone, this was a common saying. Early bird catches the worm. I still say this, right? Like, because it's being on time, being punctual, you know, not being afraid to really be the first, right? But here's like, the second mouse gets the cheese because the first mouse got its head snapped, you know, like in the trap. The second mouse benefits from the first one's mistake. The second mouse benefits from the first one going first, right? That is just such a cool. I love things like that because you're like, oh, that's so true. It's just so clever. Because both are true, and that's the thing that's amazing about Allah's creation, I think. In the morning, I always see the birds, they're out, the crows, they're looking because the morning dew, so there's wormies and slugs and all the things they like to eat. And this is really cool because you get to see how everything in the morning has a different cycle. But when it comes to vermin, they have their own rules, right? And traps are definitely one of those. Except, like, a fish, it goes for the bait, it gets hooked, it doesn't get a second chance, right? No fish will benefit from that. So it's very unique that the mice, due to the way the traps are set, the old-fashioned traps, I don't know if you've seen them, think of Tom and Jerry. They still sell those at Home Depot. It's better. Those smell more gruesome, but when you poison a mouse, then you're not letting the owls and the bugs kind of eat it. Right, and further, the sticky pad ones, my grandpa once used one, and I saw a mouse get stuck on there, and that's a very slow way to die. And you can't pull them off, and then you watch it stuck and just wiggling there, looking at you, panicked, and then I watched it die, and then I watched all these ants eat it, and it was like a very weird experience. And yeah, and then that rubber doesn't biodegrade as good, and it's on a plastic tray, and you put it in the trash. So it's a slower, more polluted death because some people don't want to just see the animal go snap and it goes right to the neck. The metal, you can recycle it eventually once the bones and blood dry off. The wood, you can burn it in the fire, right? Use it for firewood. So it's like, it's alright, it's better, you know? But you can just get a cat. Next one here. A desperate disease requires a dangerous remedy. What? I don't know. That one sounds cool, but I do wonder. Like, corruption as a disease is going to require a dangerous revolution, right? But if you got the disease... I guess there's some diseases that you would need some type of extraneous, risky remedy. You got a heart problem, they gotta cut you open, fix it. You know, depends on the disease, right? Gingivitis, you just go get something, or you got an infection, go get some antibiotics, right? Not too dangerous. Close your legs, open your mind. Yes! You hear that? Just close them up. Use your brain. A ruffled mind makes a restless pillow. That is very true. Very true. The journaling, having a blog, having different ways to get your thoughts out of your brain before bed is definitely a huge bonus, I'd argue. These were very unique. I really enjoy these kinds of witticism. This is like a coffee table book. Super funny. You never know what you're going to read next. I noticed that a lot of us philosophy majors, we really like those. It's very cute. Hope you enjoyed. By the way, if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.